Day 1. All 9 of us have successfully landed at the edge of a forest.
We are here after our ghosts have sensed something while we were on final approach back to the tower after a nightmare containment. Our ghosts have sensed something. Something that is familiar, but not at the same time.
Day 3. We have been walking around the forest for at least since day 1.
Marifa has been telling some facts about this forest.
It was apparently a part of what used to be known as New England. This was a region before our collapse.
Marifa has also been telling me that the forest is inundated with some paracausal energy, which could be the same as what was in the dark forest within the European dead zone, but slightly different. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like a wonderland here.
Day 7. We had set up base camp in a section of the forest. While we got up today, we saw something.
We followed it up and around the forest,
traveling deeper and deeper into the woods.
Whatever it was simply great at dodging our very attempts to surround and corner it.
After a while, we finally caught up to it by some rocks, and it turned out to be a white stag. It was illuminating us with what we believe is the traveler's light. It took off again over the rocks and went deeper. We kept on following this white stag. It went on for what it felt like hours.
We eventually got to part of the forest where the white stag encountered a slightly darker version of itself. The two quickly bloomed flowers on the tops of their antlers as if they were tree branches coming into a spring bloom. The two stags kept staring at us. We were all mesmerized by the eyes of the two animals. We were looking deep into their eyes. We felt some kind of serenity. We felt this tranquility, restfulness, this feeling of self-possession.
It felt like a few minutes when we broke our gaze, but it was dusk when we looked to the sky.
I looked towards the others, and I noticed there were only 7 of us. Lillian and Amax 7 were missing, nowhere to be found. The only thing to remain of them were their damaged and dead ghosts on the overgrown from the undergrowth of the forest floor.
The stags were gone, and we haven't seen them since. Day 16. It's been 11 days since Lillian and Amax 7 vanished, and since we last saw those stags. A day after we were conversing in our base camp, a hunter and titan by the names of Anwar and Bassa got into a row over something trivial. I forgot what it was. I think it was over which class abilities were better.
Bassa threw his void shield at Anwar's head. His ghost Alessandro rezzed him, and Anwar shot Bassa 6 times with his golden gun. Another warlock, Anne-Marie broke it up with her Nova Bomb before it got any more bloody.
After that, we all went to bed, the tension being turned to maximum. Marifa thinks it could be the trees influencing our behavior. I think he may be right, maybe.
The day after I came to Anne-Marie, calling for Anwar and Bassa, she told us that Bassa walked out early that morning and then Anwar followed him.
We left base camp to search for the two.
We eventually made it to a clearing over a mountain, and we saw Bassa kneeling over, crying.
A warlock named Rainier came to him and asked him what happened.
He explained that Bassa left to clear his head for a bit and Anwar followed him. He wanted to finish their fight as there was no one to intervene.
He chased him all the way to the mountain. Anwar then grabbed Bassa's ghost Percy and was starting to crush him when 2 shadow beings appeared. These 2 beings looked like humans from way before the Golden Age. One had something around his neck. Bassa claimed it was something from the PI Golden Age from the texts that he read.
The 2 beings then grabbed Anwar and slowly began to burn him with their touch. He tried to scream, but one of them put their dark shadowy hands over his mouth, searing it shut. Alessandro quickly appeared to try and help, but one of the shadow people simply swiped at him, and the ghost simply turned into rusted scrap metal.
Bassa just stood there and watched and listened as the skin burned off, bit by bit, as the sizzling sound of his skin intensified.
Soon it was his blood boiling. It kept boiling and bubbling, the sound being unbearable according to him.
Soon one of the shadow beings dug their arms deep into the chest of Anwar. This caused him to completely burn from the inside out.
His silent screams soon became null, and he was still as a dark statue. When the shadow being removed his arm, that statue that was once Anwar turned into ash and was blown away by the wind.
That was Bassa's story.
Rainier seemingly believed him. Anne-Marie didn't know what to think, but I did not believe him.
I still think he killed Anwar and his ghost Alessandro and dumped his body off the mountain ledge, but I don't make this known. Later that night, while we were sleeping, we heard a quick scuffle and some hammer of soul being activated, but it quickly went out. Rainier looked out and she let out a blood-curdling scream.
We all looked out and saw only Bassa's severed arm and his damaged helmet.
After that, none of us were able to sleep that night. 3 days after Bassa's unfortunate end,
2 other hunters, Dennis and Vera, went to a river to see where it leads to.
They were gone all day. We were still waiting for them to come back when Vera came back with damp clothes and a look of pure shock and terror. Vera would tell us that she and Dennis had made a raft and decided to go downstream. They traveled for about an hour and something knocked into it on the underside. It rocked the raft a little, but not enough to knock them over. It made another run at their raft. The raft flipped over and the two of them fell onto the river. They went under the waves for a bit. She saw Dennis swimming with a terrified look on his face when he was quickly pulled down by something. All she could see was the darkened redness of his blood flowing up to the surface. His ghost materialized and swam down to bring him back. But according to her story, she saw a bright light for a brief second and neither Dennis nor his ghost came back. That's all she told us. Day 27, Vera is gone. She was probably taken away by the shape she kept rambling on about.
Day? I don't even know anymore. Marifa has been cataloguing our entire expedition.
It seems that these trees have changed from the spring look to an autumn look for the third time since we have been here. Today we walked past a small town. It looks like a New England town from the PI Golden Age. It housed both humans and a listener of a house unknown. Rainier after days, possibly months of being trapped in this hell, wanted to stay in paradise. She told me as much. I told her to go and be happy and safe. She crossed a shimmering barrier between the town and the first. Everyone seemed to be accepting her and me, and Anne-Marie saw her be happy and relieved that her nightmare was over.
I don't even know what day it is, but we stumbled across a clearing and we encountered a lush, beautiful garden. It too had a shimmering barrier just like that small town we encountered days prior. I think we are gonna stay here.
It's been a while since we landed here.
Everyone is gone. It's just Marifa and I.
We just cleared out a cavern filled with Elisni again.
Each time we go in the banner's colors and sigils change.
Today's was House of Dusk.
This cavern is some kind of last sector, and like I said before, the Elisni keep changing their sigils from kings, wolves, exile, winter, judgment, and dusk.
But some switch to colors of houses unknown.
I don't know if they are real, but they feel.
Their attacks feel real. Have going in here since we saw a familiar vandal from the distant shore in the Cosmodrome. Every day we have been following him into this cavern. These Elisni aren't nightmares, but are something else. I don't know what is going on here.
The audio log here is lost, so the rest of this video clip is silent.
We just made it to an abandoned outpost in the mountains. We have been chased by a black dog that Marifa has colloquially called a hellhound. We would be hiding here as we keep hearing the howls coming up the mountain.
I have been telling Marifa to tell me stories and facts to keep his mind off of stuff.
It helps him keep calm in a lot of dangerous situations, and also helps us focus on things other than the possible life and death scenarios we could be in.
His favorite story is to tell me a PI Golden Age story about a boy wizard. I will also tell him to change his appearance. For those who don't know, Ghosts like to change their outer shell to distinguish themselves from others, especially if they use their default shells.
I think he may pick the ghost shell he got from our raid in the Deep Stone Crypt.
Hello, is anybody there? This is Marifa, my guardian ace, and I have been trapped here in this forest for an unknown amount of time. Is anybody there? Please respond. Hello?